Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. Hope you guys have all had a wonderful day. We see Palantir that establishes and announces a new key partnership, and in terms of its price action, catches a big reversal with a lot of buying pressure today, up about 3%, including the overnight session, and now at a critical resistance point. If it pushes through there, that's where momentum could get juicy. We'll be talking about end of the year price targets. And on top of that, with earnings just a few short weeks away. We're seeing volatility that could come into the market tomorrow with CPI data. On top of a resilient market, it'll be interesting to see how this is absorbed depending on the reading. However, I think once that gets past us, with the administration, we have announcements of an official meeting with President Xi. So I guess we'll see what happens. But we're going to be talking about everything that you guys need to know, especially with some interesting things happening with BMNR and crypto right now that we've been kind of covering recently in the channel. So if you're a new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos. Of course, not a financial advisor. We're trying to hit 30,000 subscribers. Let's see if we can do it. Pop it up on the screen here. You see Palantir closes here at 180.48. Like I said, up about 2.8% in the overnight session, still continuing to catch a bid, up about 40 cents. Nonetheless, though, right at this resistance point. The big piece of news that we got for Palantir today is that they established a partnership with Lumen Technologies, ticker symbol LUMN. They agree to spend more than $200 million on Palantir software over a period of several years. Right here at the direct quote saying that Lumen will use Palantir's AI software to better manage and operate its networks and services, as well as show its clients how they can use Palantir. For Palantir, the deal bolsters its commercial business. So we know Palantir has established, key relationships, trustworthiness within the government side of things, and has really expanded into the commercial side of things just over the previous few years since we've been covering on the channel since 2023. It's pretty astonishing to see the commercial expansion within Palantir. In terms of its price action, at this resistance point at 180 now. This is a tight band. As we push through this, if it gets above this, you could possibly see this kind of similar push to this testing of all-time highs. If we see any type of push or break through all-time highs, that's where I think my own personal price target on the table is $200 by end of the year. I think that'll at least be tested, especially here at the resilient market. You have earnings now. You're going to see some volatility in trading with earnings coming up. November 3rd post-market. 19 bullish earnings per share revisions in the last 90 days with 0 bearish ones. Revenues here estimated to be about $1.09 billion and 17 cents for earnings per share. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if this is a slam dunk earnings. I think that's where you're going to see that earnings possible gap up, and we could be seeing that possible price target. So just here in a few short weeks, we'll see what happens with Palantir. Nonetheless, if that doesn't look good, if macroeconomic environments, turn the other way, if CPI data looks like trash, that's where you could see Palantir that could possibly come down here to this 170. With these recent testings of 170, this is just kind of further established. This is a really critical level of support right at this 170 level. And, forming this long base here in this tight wedge around these all-time highs, I think is incredibly a good accomplishment for Palantir in terms of its technical patterns. Just need the fundamentals now to help push it out of that area. In terms of stock futures, they're basically little change, talking about highly weighted of inflation data. The reason why inflation data, I think, has a little more anticipation behind it is because the government shutdown, of course. It's kind of like, hey, we kind of forgot about that. It's just you have a lot of macroeconomic data that comes in that helps kind of bring confidence and decisions and volatility within the market. CPI data comes out tomorrow, hoping to see cooler or at least in line to help kind of maintain the probabilities of the rate cuts for the end of the year, which of course is 2 more 25 basis point cuts. Looking at the S&P 500 right here, closing here at 6738, we see it reclaiming the 6700 zone. I mean, anything above 6700 and forming a base, consolidating above 6700, to me is incredibly bullish, just because we've seen buying the dip that is still continuing to basically happen on any dip that we've seen. Between 66 and 6700, that's a big area of consolidation for the S&P 500. So I like it right here. I'm not mad right here. This is a pretty good zone. Talking about earnings have been relatively well. Of course, some earnings have kind of been mixed. We see Intel popping 7% here after they reported sales, that exceeded analysts. We know the government took a stake in them. In terms of Oracle, we also saw a big boost with some data center announcements. So with the CPI here, Yes, I think it's going to have an impact, but nonetheless, the AI drive is still a main priority and focus within this market. Futures are actually up higher than whatever that article said. SPY's up here at 673, up about $1.40 in the overnight session on Robinhood has been pretty bullish. In terms of a lot of the stocks that have been cooling off are now starting to catch a bid, especially with some of the data centers that we've seen, with CoreWeave. Is this bottom here at 115? Nebius here, now here at 110 in the overnight session. So about right here, actually, in the overnight session, we see pretty similar like patterns for CoreWeave and for Nebius right here. We have announcements of more data center, basically expansions, like I said, with the Oracle, with that whole billion dollar debt deal. If you didn't see that, encourage you guys to go look it up. But nonetheless, what you're seeing here is the demand is staying relatively strong for the AI industry and all the AI related stocks. And a lot of the speculative retail kind of trendy stocks that have been cooling off, like I said, over the past week, few weeks to a month, are now starting to catch a bid. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. In terms of geopolitical tensions, you have President Trump here to meet with President Xi next Thursday. The only uncertainty that kind of lies there is, we have tomorrow, which Trump has been tweeting a lot on Friday, so we'll see what happens there. But nonetheless, that's only 2 days away from that, over 100% tariff announcement. I don't think we're going to get those. Trump has even said that's unsustainable. However, with that being said, of course, there's uncertainty that lies around there just because you don't know what these guys are going to say. However, my own personal opinion, I'm expecting, of course, those were kind of negotiation type of threats with the tariffs. That's my own personal opinion, and I think that we're going to see a deal that gets established here. Once the market sees that, that's where I think you're going to see a further catalyst, put this behind our back, and continue to move onwards. So right now, that's bullish the way I'm taking it. But of course, you never know with this administration. Things can swing like crazy. So keep that on the radar. In terms of BMNR, let's talk about that because this, it traded here lower and is being pushed down quite a bit. We see short interest that's been kind of, been talked about, spooking some uncertainty. But right now in the overnight hours, it was basically right at about $50. BMNR right here is at a pretty important support area, volume kind of shelf area at this $48 level and has held the support here kind of throughout the day right at that 48 all throughout the trading day. Catches a bid here to about this $50 zone. Likewise with Ethereum, it's just been hanging out here. We've been talking about Ethereum at this 38.77. Ethereum's been trading between 42, kind of 41, 4,200, right between there for the high resistance point and the low support between 37 and 38. A lot of people are waiting for this, end of the year rally. I don't think it's off the table yet on my own personal opinion, but what I do think is when it happens, it's going to accelerate fast. I agree with that. Tom Lee has kind of mentioned that, and that's what kind of really got me into BMNR in the first place. So I'm bullish on Tom Lee. I'm really bullish on the things that he's doing with BMNR in terms of this digital asset treasury. I wasn't interested in them in the first place, but I've always had a special place for Tom Lee. So I guess we'll see what happens here. I like his calls, and it'll be really interesting to see. On top of that, you have President Trump here that actually pardons CZ, which, if you guys don't know, is the Binance founder, and he was kind of prosecuted against during the Biden administration with anti-money laundering violations. Of course, I didn't look too far into it. I really wasn't into crypto that big at that time. Didn't really care at that point, especially with the attack against crypto that we saw from the previous administration. So now that this pardon is here, could that be a signal that, Trump or the administration wants to continue along with AI to help build out the whole crypto type of infrastructure within the US? And we've seen that's going to be hopefully built upon with Ethereum. Of course, this is all speculative in nature. Things can swing anyway, especially with the wild west kind of digital assets. But we'll see what happens. On top of that, looking at some of the other stocks here, like I said, let's talk about Beyond. Let's talk about that actually. Beyond is continuing to see a dip here at 284. It's going to be interesting to see if this does find a bottom at all. Is this meme stock rally over? If it does find a bottom at all, what is that reversal going to be? What's that going to look like? Haven't really paid too much attention to it. Let me know if you guys know anything down in the comments. But nonetheless, of course, and then you have the quantum stocks that actually caught a bid. I'm not really big into the quantum stocks just because I think I just be personally chasing right now. Way too late to them. In terms of that, you have the government though talking about a possible stake, and there's rumors all around that. So you're seeing them even catch a bid. So interesting things happening within the market. Never a dull day, but nonetheless, Palantir is still holding up relatively strong, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later.